township of Bingara on the banks of the Gwydir in northwest New South Wales, there occurred an incident close to Christmas Day that led to events which well might gladden and inspire the mind and spirit of Christians everywhere. Just 7 days prior to Christmas Day, the home of the Bateman family was destroyed by fire. This shocking misfortune kindled a tiny answering flame in the spirit of the people of this town that grew and flamed to such a fire of purpose and effort that it blotted out the mark and the effect of the wanton blaze, erased completely its scar, and set in its place a pretty home, transformed a crushed, helpless family into one with a secure and happy future. And all, I make bold to say, because Christ was born on Christmas Day. Let the critics and criers of man's inhumanity to man fall silent before the testimony of this happening. As darkness fell, that evening, December the 18th, this tragedy occurred. In a pitifully short time, just a few minutes, the home was totally wiped out. The morning of Friday the 19th revealed this heartbreaking pile of blackened ashes and twisted, mangled remains of a home which George and Jean Bateman had been struggling to make their very own. The Bateman family were well and widely known, not especially so, but just as all country people are widely known to each other, where the green lands are not buried under concrete and the people are not compressed into anonymity. Stricken by the horror of their loss, Mrs. Bateman collapsed and was taken to the comfort and care of the hospital on the opposite bank of the river, where she was nursed and restored somewhat to face the ordeal of reordering their lives. The centre of this township is neat, tidy and efficient, Maitland Street, so named after the older and now much greater town on the Hunter River, from whence the earliest settlers came and drew their supplies when Bingara was founded. It is the nerve centre of a wide, prosperous district, remote from the industrial centres of the state, remote too from rail communication and from seaports. Remote perhaps in most respects, therefore more self-reliant, more helpful toward each other, more human. In offices along this street this morning, there is some unusual activity that is worth spying upon. Let us peep in as unobtrusively as possible and see what's to do. From the office of the Imperial Hotel, host Ralph Irvine is found in conversation with Mr. Norman King. Ralph normally gives casual employment to George Bateman, and Norman King is the head of the Returned Servicemen's League of the district. And presently we shall see just what importance the welfare and responsibility toward the honoured members of this league exists in the mind of its president. Here with these men is being born a purpose and plan, which they quickly gathered a small committee to approve and to direct, a plan which would give active expression to the feeling of all the townspeople and indeed the people of the great district and beyond, such as the Fellowship of Australia's Outback. The newspaper of this town is published but once weekly on a Wednesday. But here is something most unusual. This paper is dated Monday the 22nd, but actually it was issued on Friday the 19th to carry the story of the fire and of the appeal now already launched. That afternoon, radio station 2NZ of Sister Township in Burrell, 42 miles distant, which serves the district, and we mean serves, cracked in with this announcement.
I have to tell you today of a terrible calamity that has befallen a Bingara family with Christmas only 6 days away. This morning we received a phone call from Mr. Norman King, President of the RSL branch, the Bingara branch of the RSL. Mr. King, when he phoned me this morning, told me that last night a man and his wife and 3 kiddies had their home completely wiped out. The man, a well-known resident in Bingara district, Mr. George Bateman, who was one of the first men to enlist in the last conflict, the last World War, and is now a semi-invalid, as a result of this fire has lost everything the family possessed. Mr. King has asked us if we can assist, and we certainly can. And we want the assistance of every person that has the spirit of Christmas in their minds to assist us and to assist this Bateman family with this special Christmas appeal. If you can help, would you please send donations to 2NZ, or people of Bingara district, if you can assist this family, would you please contact Mr. Norman King, President of the Bingara RSL. In the past years, we've always had great support for appeals of this nature from our listeners. And once again, 2NZ feels sure that you will support a family, as I say, at this particular time of the year, especially 3 kiddies and parents with no home and no possessions. As I say, we have had your support in past years, and I know that you won't let this appeal go by. Please contact us here at 2NZ with your donations, your assistance, or people of Bingara district, contact Mr. Norman King, President of the Bingara RSL. Thank you.
On Sunday of that week, the men of the sawmill went back to work on their day of rest, quite freely, without payment of any kind, and milled the timber to build the new home. They worked for nothing, that is in money. But how do you measure that which one Australian will do for another, his mate, if it is needed? George and Jean Bateman and Ralph Irvine bring and serve refreshment on the afternoon of that day to this team of diggers and mates. Here are these casual, self-effacing heroes. How's their form, Dig? At this stage of the project, work was halted for several days, awaiting the arrival of the fire assessor. When he arrived and inspected the ruins, work immediately restarted. A bulldozer moved in and quickly and efficiently wiped away all trace of the fire, and new cement foundation blocks were set in their place. Mr. and Mrs. Bateman had not been able to bring themselves to return to the site of their ruined homes, but on Christmas Day, with a newborn hope in their hearts, they celebrated Christmas on the lawn. Surely this is an achievement in itself and a source of pride to the Returned Servicemen's League and to all who contributed. If you are an Australian, then lift up your head. If you are not, then raise your hat to those who truly live the spirit of Christmas. So quickly had these events occurred, we were unable at short notice to procure the proper film for this record, and a few of the following scenes are not very clear. But we do not apologise. It is the work of these people that is important to the record, not ours. Approaching the site of the new building, we find it surrounded by a small fleet of cars and trucks. A workshop is set up under a tent, and everybody who can drive a nail or use a brush is busy under the direction of the master builders of the town, who have combined all of their resources in this truly Christian effort. This is the moment for which the committee had feverishly prepared. Bingara Township boasts a population of near 1,485 people. By Friday night, 24 hours after the fire, £540 had been subscribed in cash, timber, labour and even a brood mare to the value of £50. Extraordinary, you think? I remember from my boyhood a little poem my mother taught, which ran, "You shall have the strength of 10 if right you do." Certainly this committee of returned servicemen had the strength of 10 now, as indeed they had years before in war. By Saturday night this total had grown to £760. By Monday, 72 working hours after the fire, to £825. And by Christmas Eve, Wednesday night, a total of £1,051. What a prelude to the coming of that happy Christmas morning of December 1958. Had it not been that the hearts of the people of this town had rebelled at the thought of the time of peace on earth and goodwill to men being sullied by the tragedy in their midst, the feeling that they could not rejoice while some of their own stood destitute, then this inspiring event would not have occurred. Truly, said Lord Byron, peace hath her victories no less renowned than war. Our company of toilers are a little shy of the camera, you'll notice. No publicity chases these boys, just good Australians caught by the spirit of Christmas. Radio station 2NZ sent their representative down for a progress report, and RSL President Mr. Norman King supplies the facts and figures to him, telling them just what stage the project has reached. He tells them also of a stranger, a man who heard the appeal on his car radio on his way to Queensland for a holiday, instead of which he called in and worked as though these unfortunate people were his own family. As this day's work draws toward the close, the company of workmen relax with the stranger at the end of the row. And here is the result of their labours. Just 3 weeks after commencement. Imagine, if you can, the feelings of the Bateman family as they survey the finished work of their fellow townspeople and stand within a home finished and free of debt. No finer tribute could be paid these people, especially mentioning the stranger, than to say of their work, "I shall pass this way but once. Any good thing, therefore, that I can do, let me do it now, for I shall not pass this way again." And this happy result, good people, my patient listeners, was just 3 weeks after the tragic fire. As we bid these happy folk a cheery goodbye, Christmas is past, and a virile outback Australian town returns to its workaday preoccupations as though nothing had occurred to interrupt the even tenor of its existence. But well we know that beneath the busy, hard-working surface, the spirit of Christmas quietly sleeps, awaiting the next happy anniversary. Happy, carefree groups of young people swim and sunbathe across the river from the new home, and the passing stranger would not realise that anything unusual had stirred within these people at that Christmas time.